Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another 10 pens currently inked up today. So I think let's go through these briefly one by one. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Bennu, and this is the Charming Chameleon. We have the Bennu, and this is the Supreme Symphony. We have a Classic Pens LB5. We have a Sailor King of Pen in the Pro Gear Ocean. We have a Pelican M805 Vibrant Blue. We have a Pelican M800 Grand Place. We have a Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Corsani 90, a Visconti Corsani Octagonal, and a Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina. So I think let's look at these pens in a little bit more detail. So this is the Bennu, and this is the Charming Chameleon. The reason why it's a chameleon is if you look at these sort of colour patterns here, you will notice that it does change depending on the colour of the light. So these are quite interesting pens. So this is a Bennu and it is a chameleon, and this one is particularly called the Charming Chameleon, and there's some sort of glitter going on there in the body there, in the darker sort of almost like a purple or a blurple going on there, but this material is actually quite nice. Now all of these Bennus are screw caps. They do come with a number 5 size Schmidt nib, and this one is a fine nib. Now you do have these little markings around the barrel here, and although it's a screw nib, you can click these into place. So that's actually quite a good design feature. Honestly, I wish more pens actually had that feature. I think that's a great design feature. The only issue you will find is obviously the name Bennu is then sort of backwards and it doesn't necessarily line up with the nib. But that's down to really this sort of almost triangular style shape there going on with that pen. But it is actually a very comfortable pen to hold. So this Bennu and also this one, which is the Supreme Symphony, are on loan from Derek at Stonecrop Fine Writing Supplies. So I'd like to thank Derek for the loan of these pens, both for review and also for allowing me to ink these up in these currently inked videos. So if you want to check out some of these Bennus, then do get off and see Derek at Stonecrop Fine Writing Supplies in the UK. So I like it. I like this model. These are all cartridge converter pens. It does obviously look a little bit strange that you have these little divots there around the body, but obviously there's a very good reason for that. I honestly would have thought, because of the design of the shape of this, that these would have been push caps and not screw caps, but I'm actually quite glad that these are screw caps, to be honest. So the next pen here is again on loan from Derek at Stonecrop Fine Writing Supplies. This is the Bennu and this is a Supreme Symphony, and I do like this a lot. I like that the pen is fairly plain until you get to this area, and it goes from a very dark sort of glitter to a very light glitter, and there's lots of blues and golds and silvers in that. And it just makes it look really quite captivating. I also like the actual shape of this pen, that it's actually much wider here at the cap finial and much smaller here at the what would be the end cap or blind cap. But these are actually quite interesting pens, and I have to admit that I've never really been a fan of Bennu until recently. Now this one actually has a number 6 size nib, and most of the Bennus have a number 5 size nib, so this is actually quite interesting, and the section is also a little bit sort of wider as well. Now you can post these caps as well, and they do post quite securely, and all of this glitter has been lacquered over. You cannot feel any of this, so I don't think posting the cap is going to scratch that glitter. But these are really nice pens. So I've got this one on loan at the moment, and that one is inked up this week. The next pen I have here is my trusty Classic Pens LB5, and this is a pen that I do love a lot. This diffusion bonded acrylic, and I'm not normally one that likes brown as a colour, but I do love this brown. It's a very, very nice brown, and I have to say I do like the Sailor King pen nibs, and this is a Sailor King pen nib. This is the sort of made by Sailor for classic pens for the LB5, but it's a 21 karat gold nib, and I just love how it writes. So I have that one inked up as well this week. And then you can see here, this is a Sailor King pen, but it's the Ocean Pro Gear version, and the regular King pen is normally about to this size here. So the LB5 is a little bit larger, and then you get the King pen, and then you get the Pro Gear that's even shorter. So this does look quite short compared to the LB5, but it's a really lovely pen. I like it a lot. I bought this year, and this has again a 21 karat gold nib, and it's a Sailor King pen nib. This is a medium nib, same as the nib in the LB5, and I love it. It's a very crisp metallic. It's almost bordering on an architect nib. It has that kind of sort of line variation sometimes when I'm writing with it. So this I have inked up this week, and it's a nib that I do like writing with a lot. I also have this one, and this is the Pelican M805 Vibrant Blue, and you can just see here the material in that. It's sort of translucent or semi-translucent, but it's a beautiful material. This is a piston filling pen, whereas these first four are cartridge converters. It comes with a Pelican M800 size nib. It's a broad nib. These nibs are more on the rigid side, even though they are 18 karat gold nibs. But I love this material, and I actually wanted this pen for probably about 18 months, and I didn't know any retailers in the UK that had one. And then suddenly I actually stumbled across a retailer that I had seen numerous times before, but I wasn't looking for this pen, and they had the pen, so I bought it. And I'm so glad I did buy it, because it's probably one of the Pelicans I wouldn't let go of. And then there's this one, and this is the Pelican M800 Grand Plus, and this has again a beautiful material going on there. It's a really lovely material, and again it's a pen that I like. And again, this was another Pelican that it took a while for me to not find one. I knew a number of retailers that had these, but they were all what I considered to be too much that they were asking for the pen. And I, in the end, waited it out and picked up this one for a really good price after one of the pen shows. And this again is an M800 nib. It's a broad nib, but I like it. It's a really nice pen. So for me, I'm glad that I also have that in my collection. So I'm writing with that again this week. And then we have this honker of a pen, and I say honker, it is a massive pen. I know it's massive. It's massive in length. It's massive in diameter or girth. It's a Pilot Custom Urushi, and this typically is an sort of ebonite pen, and it's then has this Urushi sort of colour going on over the top of it, or Urushi art, and I love it. I really do love it. Now this is a number 30 size nib, 30, which is the equivalent of probably a 9 or 10 size Western nib. It's larger than a number 8 size nib for sure, But again, this pen, it's a cartridge converter, has a Con 70 in it, which are the pilot converters, and it holds a lot of ink, and I love it. But this is this is my only nib that is a mix of two nibs. It's a fine medium nib, and it's an 18 karat gold nib, but I love how that one writes, so I bought that nib, bought that pen, and I have that in my collection now. So it's a really nice pen to write with, at least for me anyway. So it had at least two previous owners. It was I purchased it from Gary Dapperman, and prior to that it was Anthony at UK Fountain Pens. So I'm really glad that I was able to pick this one up. I did want to pick it up when Anthony sold it, but Gary was very quick off the bat and managed to get it before me, and then Gary wasn't so keen on it, so I then purchased it from Gary. The next pen I have inked up this week is the Visconti Homo Sapiens, and this is the Corsani 90. Long sold out, unfortunately. I had this inked up, I believe, last week as well, and it's a pen I love. I really do love this pen. It has a very wide 1.3mm palladium stub nib on there, but it's a beautiful pen. That stacked celluloid I absolutely love, and the nib writes gorgeous. So for me, I have that one inked up as well this week. And then I have this one, and again, this was another one that I had inked up last week. This is the Visconti Corsani Octagonal, and again, another stacked celluloid pen, and another pen that I love writing with. It's called the Octagonal because it's shaped in an octagonal version. It's faceted, and it has a 23 karat palladium broad nib there. But again, I love how it writes. So for me, this is a beautiful pen, and I just love writing with it. And I love these stacked celluloid pens a lot. So I love looking at them as well as writing with them. And then we have this one, and this is the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina. And this was a pen that I was looking at for quite some time. Yes, it does have a clock there, and yes, that clock does work as well. So at the moment it's 12:05. So it's a lovely pen. I do like it. I thought this shape would be very strange and very sort of difficult to hold. It's not. When I unscrew this, you'll see here that you don't even actually hold this area of the pen. So for me, this is a really comfortable pen. You can post the cap, but that cap is quite heavy and it pulls the pen back. So I tend not to want to post this cap. But I love it. I love this pen. It's a medium nib. I like medium nibs, and for me, this just it ticks most of the boxes. I like how this nib writes. So for me, I have that Montegrappa inked up again this week. So that's my currently inked pens for this week. I think let's go and do a writing sample. So the first pen is the Bennu, and this is the Charming Chameleon. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now this is a fine nib. So you can see here this is putting down a really fine line. There you go. So this is the Bennu, and it's the Charming Chameleon. And this is a fine steel nib, and it is a Schmidt nib. And then the ink in here today is Diamine Majestic Purple. which is my favourite purple ink. The next pen is this lovely Bennu Supreme Symphony. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And you can see that this is quite a fine line. It's not quite as fine as the previous pen, but it's still quite fine. So this is a Bennu, and it's the Supreme Symphony. And it is a medium, and it's a steel nib. And the ink in here today is Pelican. If I can do an N right. And it's Edelstein. And it's Aquamarine. Which I really do think actually matches the colour of this pen quite well. The next pen is the Classic Pens LB5. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now this is a medium nib, but it's a medium Asian nib. So it tends to write a little bit more like a Western fine for me. So this is the Classic Pens LB5 in the Kaoseki, which is metal ore. And the nib in here is a medium, and it's a 21 karat gold nib, because that's what the Sailor King of pen nibs are. And then the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Sakushi, which is horse's tail. The next pen is the Sailor King of pen. This is the Pro Gear in the Ocean Limited Edition. So again, we'll do an ink swatch. And again, this is an Asian medium nib. So you can see here, like this, to me, really writes more like a Western fine nib. So it's the Sailor King of pen Pro Gear, and it's the Ocean Limited Edition, and it is a medium 21 karat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Pelican, Edelstein, and it's Aquamarine, which is a nice ink. The next pen is the Pelican M805 Vibrant Blue. So we'll do an ink swatch. And this is a very saturated ink, but it's also a wet nib, and it's a broad nib as well. So this is the Pelican M805, and it's the Vibrant Blue. And it's a broad 18 karat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Asa Gayo, which is a really nice, punchy, vibrant, highly saturated blue ink. The next pen is the Pelican M800 Grand Plus. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now, this was one of my earlier brown inks and is a brown ink that I do like a lot and I do still write with a lot. So this is the Pelican M800 Grand Plus in again another broad 18 cat gold nib, and then the ink in here is Jeheban Lee de Tea, or tea leaves. And thinking of that, I think once I've finished recording this video, I'm going to have a nice cup of Earl Grey tea. The next pen I have inked up this week is the Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, if you recall, I did say that this was a fine medium. Now, Pilot is an Asian company, so I would honestly say that this writes more to a fine line than a medium line, honestly. So this is the Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion, and it's a fine medium. It's an 18 cat gold nib, and then the ink in here is Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red, which is quite one of my favourite red inks. The next pen is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Corsani 90. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, you can already see this is a marker of a nib. It's a very wide nib. So this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Corsani 90, and it's a 1.3mm stub nib, and it's a 23 cat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine Majestic Purple, which is my favourite purple ink. The next pen is the Visconti Corsani Octagonal. We'll do another ink swatch. And again, another broadish nib, not quite as broad, but also quite a wet writing nib as well. So this is the Visconti, and it's the Corsani Octagonal, and it's a broad nib, and it's a 23 cat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Pelican Edelstein Topaz, which is a really beautiful blue ink. And then the last pen currently inked this week is the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina. So we'll do an ink swatch here. So this is the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina, and it's a medium, and it's an 18 cat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey, which is just reminding me once more, I do need a cup of Earl Grey tea today. So I think let's take a look at these pens inked up one more time. So we have a Bennu Charming Chameleon in a fine steel nib, inked up with Diamine Majestic Purple. We have a Bennu Supreme Symphony in a medium steel nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Aquamarine. We have a Classic Pens LB5 Kaoseki in a medium 21 karat gold nib, inked up with Pilot of Oshizuku Sakushi. We have a Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear Ocean limited edition in a medium 21 karat gold nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Aquamarine. We have a Pelican M805 Vibrant Blue in a broad 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Pilot of Oshizuku Azageo. We have a Pelican M800 Grand Place in a broad 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Jehaban Lee Dete. We have a Pilot Custom Yorushi in the Vermilion with a fine medium nib. It's an 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Corsani 90 in a 1.3mm 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Diamine Majestic Purple. We have a Visconti Corsani Octagonal in a broad 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Topaz. And then last but not least, we have a Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. And I think that's now my key to go and have my cup of Earl Grey tea. So that's my currently inked pens for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.